Congress returns to work this morning. Lawmakers face a busy year. Voters are frustrated. The midterm elections are less than 10 months away. CBS News analyst Frank Luntz is a Republican strategist. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the whole idea of extending unemployment benefits seems like a humane thing to do, but is it politically smart for Democrats to do it and Republicans to oppose it?
It's politically smart for Democrats. You add that to the minimum wage, and the Democrats are playing a populist campaign for 2014.
Income inequality and all that.
All that. And the Republicans are going to respond with wasteful Washington spending and Obamacare. And when you put the two of them up against each other, there's no give and take. It's either all one way or all the other way. And the only two issues where you might see some sort of bipartisanship are the NSA and a review of national security and possibly some education legislation. Even immigration is divided right now. But you know what? Congress represents America. And if the country is that divided, you would expect Congress to be that divided.
You counsel Republicans on messaging. So on Charlie's point about the messaging, if you have Democrats trying to look like they're addressing income inequality, unemployment benefits, making Republicans vote against raising the minimum wage, does that hurt the Republicans? How do the Republicans counter that?
They have to counter it by communicating that raising the minimum wage doesn't help when you've been taken down from 40 hours a week to 29 hours a week because of Obamacare. And the fact is that more people are affected by health care than they are by the minimum wage. There's a key voter block out there, and those are working class Americans, people with family incomes between about $32,000 and $48,000. Those are people who vote Democrat 58-42. They don't like extensions of benefits because they don't benefit from it. They're wealthier than that.
And yet you have Senator Marco Rubio planning a big speech on the war on poverty, addressing that. You have Paul Ryan also talking about poverty as an issue. So it does appear that some thought leaders in the Republican Party think this is an issue we're tackling.
Exactly. But there's a difference between raising the minimum wage and tackling poverty. In fact, both Representative Ryan and Senator Rubio have said that the minimum wage doesn't help tackle poverty, that extension of unemployment benefits doesn't help. That
what
you have
does
to have
tackle poverty?
Tools, training, education, that our education system in this country is genuinely failing, and that we are not giving people the skills they need for the 21st century. And the schools are worst where they need it the most, in the inner city and in rural areas.
What do you say to people who are trying to find a job, can't find a job, and unemployment benefits are running out, and they've got a family and kids, and they don't know where to go or what to do? What do you say to those?
You've been saying to them that we've been extending and extending and extending, but you have to give people the tools and the training. You can't force a corporation to hire them. If they don't have the ability to do something that is meaningful, that provides to the economy, then they are going to be chronically unemployed. The key, Charlie, is to start at the beginning, is to give our young people in high schools and colleges the skills they need to succeed.
Let me go to something I learned this morning from Dickerson. It is this idea that there's a correlation between where the presidential candidate, a Republican presidential candidate, carried a state and then a senator is up. The Republicans do well in those senatorial elections. Is that correlation strong?
It's pretty strong because Republicans are very popular at the gubernatorial level. They're not popular at the congressional level. In fact, the Republican
Why is that?
Because Americans don't think Republicans in Congress are listening to them. They think that they're actually too ideological. They're not focused on getting things done on the gubernatorial level. All across the country, with only a couple of exceptions, Republican governors are quite popular, even more popular than Democratic governors.
Yeah, but in that particular instance, it's whether the Republicans can take back the Senate. Right. And in the seats where the 7 seats where Democrats are up in 6 of those, Mitt Romney won in those particular states. It means it could be very fertile territory for Republicans to take back the Senate.
And yet I've seen this, and I've heard this again and again. And Republicans were supposed to do well 2 years ago. They didn't. They were supposed to do well 4 years ago. They didn't. There's something about this Republican mentality when it involves Washington that there's a disconnect between what they do and what voters hear.
And I wonder if it's more powerful, too. I mean, last year was known as, like, the most do-nothing Congress of ever, and this one's going to be even worse than that in terms of actually doing nothing. Even as we talk about them tackling these issues, still they're not going to get much done in terms of legislation.
And yet more Americans would vote to throw out their incumbents than at any time. It's now 61% would replace everybody. And yet still we know that over 90% of candidates will get reelected.
This is a short answer. Is the predictions now among political analysts that the Republicans are likely to keep the House and Democrats likely to keep the Senate?
Correct.
Today?
Yes.
Okay. Frank Luntz, thank you.
Thanks.